Hey, everybody, we got a great show for you today. We're going to play our intro for all you fine people watching. This is the Sunday Comics Brunch, and we'll get to the topic in just 1 second as soon as I find that intro. The Sunday Comics Brunch is always the intro. I seem to always have a problem finding it. I don't know why. Every Sunday, you think I'd get used to it. But no. It's because I think we edited. I don't know. It just seems like there's so many videos. Let's see. Week ended. Yeah, but this one's bad. This week, here we go. Intro. That's why. It's got the warning on it. I found it.
Welcome to the Sunday Comics Brunch, where we dine on comics and comics headlines, hosted by Mr. Anderson and Meredith Logren. Join them and their guests as they go over the comics headlines from this week and their projects, brought to you by the Comics News Wire and Geek Insider. Warning and disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed on this live feed are those of the guests, speakers, and or hosts, and do not necessarily reflect the beliefs, official policies, ethics, or positions of the content providers, advertisers, additional hosts, and or guests, hosting sites, groups, or entities attached to this programming. Viewer discretion is advised.
All right, good morning, everybody. So today's topic we'll get into in a minute, but first we're going to talk with our guests. Are you guys still there?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, we're having thunderstorms down here, so the lights just flickered. So
Yep.
it was a 50-50 if I was still with you guys or if it just had frozen. So I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves. I got to walk a pup, so I'll be right back. Tell them who you are. Meredith, you got the board?
I got the board. All right. See, you want to go first or should I?
No, please go first.
All right, here. Let me see. Hi, I am Meredith Logren. I am the associate editor over at Geek Insider, as well as the executive producer of the Geek Insider podcast. Also, one of the founding members of Terraform Comics, and we're going to be talking about the Continuum a little bit later. So, lots of exciting stuff that's happening over there. I have just finished up a campaign. It is the Compendium of Dread, an anthology of dark fiction. Now, you might be wondering, comic books and dark fiction, how does that go hand in hand? Well, that is the genesis story of a lot of the comic books that I'm going to be putting out in 21 and 22. A lot of those stories are going to be scripted out. In fact, one of them already has 8 pages of art, and I will be looking for more because that Kickstarter was to fund more art because I don't do art. And art is not free. So on that note, I'm going to pass the mic over to C. Michael and let him introduce himself.
Hi, I'm C. Michael Lanning. I'm an independent artist. So for me, art is free.
We don't like you, C. You're out of here. You're so see, there we go.
Oh,
No,
always
go ahead.
kicking me off. I'm beginning to get a complex. I'm an independent artist working with Silverline and Terraform. Upcoming on Silverline, I have an upcoming project called The Rejects that is getting inked right now. And hopefully in a couple of months, you'll be able to see the comic fleshed out with colors and everything. I'm excited for that because that will be my first real full-length sequential art comic. And then, of course, we have some more sequential art coming up in the Terraform Continuum with our project with the incomparable Meredith Logren. I think we're going to showcase some of that today. And so looking forward to that and whatever else the future holds. So
Awesome.
Yep.
So we are just keeping busy this year. We're coming out of the gate. It's only the first week of February, and I feel really excited about a lot of the projects. In fact, I'm like, it feels almost like a tidal wave of stuff. I was like, oh my gosh, okay, wait. I got to put on the brakes on a few things here. Plus with my personal schedule, driving back and forth now, I'm losing a few hours, but I don't feel like I'm losing them because it's for the betterment of my family. So I have to, make sure that I'm focused on the 3 things. I've got, family, I've got Terraform, and I've got Geek Insider. That is my focus. But Rob, you're back.
Yeah, I've been here the whole time. I'm just dealing with puppies, that's all.
Something's missing here. I mean, did you have an accident or something?
No, and this will be a teachable moment. I could joke that it just because I made some jokes the other day. about, you know, how I was called homeless and someone tried to hand me a sandwich because the beard was getting out there. And a lot of it was just laziness. Like when I grow a beard, it's 90% just me being lazy and it being a little colder. And I'm used to trying to grow out a beard this time of year. I just actually happened to grow one this year, like a legit beard. So it went on for a little longer. I'd grown out my mustache for a while, but the truth is it's time to get back to work. We have a crowdfunder starting just next Sunday. And you start becoming a face, and you got to make sure that your appearance, because there's a vacation or like writer version of yourself that goes into the cave and just creates. But at this point, I'd already be doing at least 3 shows with it by the end of February. We don't have that right now. So I had this weird opportunity, and I had the mustache, and I was showing Meredith I could do that. Just it didn't look right. So I couldn't, because you have to think about yourself professionally. And I get bothered by I shouldn't say bothered. Well, is the wrong word. But my sister constantly mentions to me about how I should look professional all the time. And I wear tank tops and stuff like that when I do some of my videos. But I do agree with her that there is, especially if you're going to be crowdfunding, you got to look presentable. You got to look professional. You know, if I'm going to be a guest on shows or anything like that. And then I recently found out that, you know, I'm the most screenshotted person, and people take all the stuff that I have going on and they take little clips of it and play it on their shows. And it's been happening for a while, and I forgot I've got to look good for my haters. I look good for my haters, which brings us to the content of today's discussion, where we're talking about, and it's a clever title, so I'm actually going to call it up so I can get it right. The Sunday Comics Brunch presents a conversation about the fact that there is no comic book community, but there can be communities about comics. So what do we mean about that? Famously, last year, I broke everyone's heart when I pointed out to them that the comic book industry is an industry and it is not a community.
I remember that.
And well, having that debate when some people took other sides to it, and that was fine. It was a good one. It was part of my show that's maybe one day we'll bring it back for specials, but I don't feel like it'd ever be a good show because no one wants to step up and have debates with me on a regular basis. Was the devil's advocate. And on that, I gave all the reasons, but we really talked about the fact that while there wasn't a comic book community, there were certainly communities about comic books. So I feel like I've already proven the point that there is no grand, big comic book community. There's an industry. And within that industry, there are definitely smaller entities of communities. I mean, you have the communities that are about just creator communities like the ones that we're part of. Artist communities, they're educational communities. They're even regional and local communities about comic books. They're fan-based communities. And of course, what industry would be complete without the rip down to get ahead communities? The people who have to try to shit on other people to try to get ahead. Yep. Because, hey, why do something of value when I can just take other people out and try to slip into their spot? A little bit of a spoiler, guys. Those are the communities that implode constantly, and they never go anywhere because that's not the right way forward. But they're fun to I guess they're not fun at all, to be honest. There's nothing fun about them. The only thing that's fun is when they go away. But, you know, they are a community. It's the troll community and other things. And then there are subsets. There are religious comic book communities. There are political comic book communities. So there are a great amount of communities. Now, how can I know this? How can I dare say this? Because that's one of the things that people are always talking about it. Simple. I belong to different communities within the industry. It's that simple. I'm one of those people who can transcend different communities, and I have a tendency to understand and know things because of my welcomeness to many various communities, and the fact that a lot of people don't like people come to me because I've become a respected voice. I'm just as shocked as you are. Trust me, I don't know how it happened. When I become the voice of reason, you've all failed. I just want you to understand that. You've all failed somehow, but I'm here to save you. Good luck with that. But no, I want to toss it around. And we're going to do something we haven't done in months. We're actually going to open up the mic to everybody. So right now, we're leaving the link. Anyone can come in and join us. There's the StreamYard link, and we're going to invite anyone to have a conversation. First time this year, probably won't be able to do it for a few months after this one because we have the awards coming up. Like Meredith and C we're talking about, we have the Continuum coming. So This is definitely not going to be. We're going to have shows with different creators on it constantly, and we're also going to try to have Russ Leach on today.
Oh, awesome!
Cool.
So I'm going to be inviting him on right now, and we'll be introducing them. So, but yeah, what do you guys think?
You know, when I first became introduced, because I wasn't really into comic books for the longest time. And we had this discussion, was it last week or the week before, where, I used to say I tripped into it, but it's more of a reawakening, okay? Because I used to love comic books and comics and Sunday funnies and all that stuff when I was growing up. And then there was just this huge chunk of time where it was just out of my peripheral vision even. And so because of Geek Insider, I was reintroduced into a lot into the community. And I say that because anybody on the outside looking in who sees all of these creators, the writers, the letters, they're not thinking about all of the pieces that need to come together in order to create a comic book. So they think of it as, oh, comic books, just broad, that there's your community. And it isn't until you walk into it and say, hey, I'm curious, how do I go about this process of creating one, that you see the writers, the artists, the letterers, and if you guys have ever seen that movie Drumline, I love that movie. And it's so funny because you have the bass drums, the snare drums, and all of these different areas, with a certain skill set. It's all drums. It's all percussion. But, when you dive deeper into it and you see that, and you're like, oh, okay. So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, little cliques, little micro communities and things. It's like, okay, I get it now. But I think, so when people say comic book community, I think it's probably because they're not in it. They're not doing it. See, you have any thoughts on that?
Ooh, I have a lot of thoughts. I just have to censor myself. Let's think. But no, and kind of being pulled into the independent community, or about last year, I guess it's been now. You start seeing things that you don't really realize when you come on the inside. When you do become part of a community, it is the other communities, and some of them become very cliquish. And I've seen communities where one community, there's to be two different communities or two different lines of thought fighting each other, and they're both the same animal. They just have different prey. But when you could find a community or a group of people that you could get along with, and that's not toxic like that, and can be even if they're critical of each other, that they're critical of each other in a way that betters the other person. So.
And Rob, you are on mute.
Sorry, I'm not used to the laptop. I clicked the wrong spot and it hit the wrong thing. I hate the touchpads on the laptops. What's up, Russ? And Mike in the chat room. I want to say hi, Russ. Go ahead, take a minute and introduce yourself to the fandom watching.
Oh, hi. My name's Russ Leach. I'm an illustrator from the UK. I've been drawing comics in anger for about 10 years now. I've done a couple of stints for the big boys, so I've been on some Marvel work, some stuff for Cartoon Network, and I did a run on Doctor Who. And I've done quite a few indie comics as well, bit of storyboarding. Currently, I'm in production of my own comic book series, the first comic book being book one of Only Death Can Save Us, which was in Indiegogo, is currently in demand and has been going out to backers this week. And then I'm on to some more projects soon, but that's pretty much what I'm doing at the moment.
All right. And the topic for today, and if you see that, Russ, they're showing off their books.
Let's see here.
On Friday, they both.
Yeah, there you go.
They worked
beforehand. Oh, sorry, I didn't see that. I was looking the other way. Thank you. Thank you to everyone who's back, by the way. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Meredith. Thanks to everybody who's back. I've had a real response to this. My first time out the gate, and I got over 200 backers. So very, very
nice.
Happy.
Nice.
And I'll be coming back with a second book in the summer. So I'll be starting the campaign in the summer. I've got, as I said just a couple of minutes ago, I'm on to another project in the next couple of weeks. And I can't really say much about that. So, but that will be released. The information for that will be released soon.
All right. Now we got to wait till summer to get another Only Death Can Save Us. What?
Yeah. Well, I would have gone straight onto it, but because I've been asked to work on this other project, you know, I've got to do it. So, yeah, really cool. I'm really, really pleased. I've had such great response, and it's made me a very happy man.
I got to say this real quick on the news on Friday. I don't know if these two in here were behind the scenes making up plans, but it was like synchronized swimming when they both pulled up the book. Your book, they both jumped up, and there's your book, big and proud. And they're like, "Look, stickers in that!" Like we scheduled the show for 10 minutes to talk about how you packed it.
Yeah,
Shitheel who doesn't got the money this year to be getting these cool things, and they're just like, "Look what we got."
that packaging,
the checks in the post.
And we're joined by Chuck and Mike now. What's going? It's getting to be a
Hi guys.
Let's do introductions. Chuck, you're up first.
What's going on, gang? I am Chuck Pino, Paneau. I'm an editor and writer, and as soon as you mention community, I got to jump on and talk about it. So yeah, I'm here.
Hi, I'm Michael Bankston. I mostly buy comic books, but I'm hoping to write one this year.
And I want to welcome Mike back. He just got back with us. Thank you for showing up with us, and I'm happy to see you back on live with us, man.
Well, I'm downstairs, so.
And yeah, so the topic for anyone who doesn't know, who's just tuning in now, as this is getting to be a bigger room, is we're talking about how the comic book industry, comic books, does not have a community. There's no such thing as one giant community. That does not discount the fact that there are communities within the comic books. And once again, they're the communities for the artists, the creator. The fan bases, of course, have their own. You have the educational communities, and you even have writer communities, which we didn't mention. They break into regional and local communities. And we can't forget, it would be a shame not to mention the hater communities, the troll communities, because where would any industry be without its defectors and angry people?
It's the same place. Where would He-Man be without Skeletor? I mean,
Yeah.
You know what, though? To start it off, because, you know, you kind of need someone, you need a foil, you need someone to fight against. So I would disagree in the sense that you're not completely wrong. However, I would say the comic books, the comic book community is a community as much as America is a community. Anyone who lives in America or in any other country, my dear friend Russ, not to discount those other countries. Anyone who lives in a country, you do have something in common, but it's such a wide frickin' berth that there's also going to be an awful lot that you have that is definitely not in common. So, yes, I do actually believe there is a comic book community. The problem is that what people see as comics and indie comics, are there indie comics, all this other shit that goes inside of that bubble, that's the stuff that starts the friction. But at the end of the day, there are certain things that I think most of us can agree upon. So in a sense, there is a comic book community, but of course, when it comes to a country or something like that, there's also an awful lot that can be used to divide us. So that does mean that it breaks down into states and counties and cities and things smaller than that. So that's kind of how I see it.
when we come to the agreement, comics are awesome. That's the.
Well, I just wouldn't use America and community right now. We're still working a lot out right now. We'll be back. We'll be right back.
I would have used Canada, but you guys don't understand that country, or else you would already have free medical care My boy Russ knows what's going on. So stuff like that.
I thought socialism was easy to understand. Watch Chuck get
Oh,
angry.
if it were socialism.
There goes Chuck. If you call Canada socialist, he goes crazy.
Of course he does.
All right.
Can't say bad things about Canada. I mean, otherwise, jumps in there and gets you. He told me Canadian bacon is good.
It is amazing.
So, Mike, what do you think? Is there a comic book community, or do you believe that is splintered into little communities that are held under the umbrella of an industry?
Oh, there's a ton of little communities in comics right now. I was kind of blind to the fact that, I thought it was like all Marvel and DC, and then independents tried to be together, but independents are so separate from each other. Some of the independents haven't even heard of each other, and they're thinking they're doing a good job.
That's an attack. I like that.
Well, it's not meant to be an attack. I wish the best for it, but the independents are probably put out numbers kind of like Marvel and DC, but there's no connection to it.
Yeah. No, I feel you there.
All right, let me ask a quick point. Is anyone's smoke detector going off?
No.
Because I keep hearing a chirp, and it's driving me. Like, I'm not in my house, so the fact that I'm hearing a chirp, there it is.
Nope.
All right. If there are flames behind me, don't mind me if I run.
Well, we'd appreciate it if you run if there's flames behind you.
It's going to look like the Blair Witch Project, yeah.
Okay, guys. Gotta go.
We got some Blair Witch shit going on over at your house.
But go ahead. Sorry.
I'm so sorry to the comics community.
Well, like I said, the comics community is as united as the United States. You know what I mean? Like it's certainly separated, but you do kind of, there's certain things that you can all kind of agree upon. And so, yeah, is there an awful lot of separation? Of course. But I think the point is that comics can be united in some form as a community, in some form, in the same way that a country can. It's under broader terms, and it's under things that are a little more that affect the entire community, things like that. So, again, yeah, of course, there's lots of little communities, but I do believe in some aspect, even if there isn't an absolute one community, I think it should be. I can hear you chirping now, dude. I think it should be something that we strive for, that we try to connect these communities as much as possible, that we try to understand the different communities as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be one thing like I said, like for instance, comics are awesome. Everybody, all these comic communities are going to come together. If somebody attacks comics, they're all going to come together and be united to say, no, comics are not bad, or comics are not this, comics are not stupid, or whatever the case is. But then when it comes to facts like what goes into the comics, now we're going to have our problems. Now we're going to have our not necessarily problems, but we're going to have our differences. And then we're going to have our debates and our disagreements. And, of course, you have your toxic ones, and you're going to have your arguments. So.
Well, I think that's family. I think comics and the creator-wise, we're a family. It's okay for, us to disagree with each other, but you fuck with the family and we all stand up.
Yeah.
Right away, we all come together and we're like, nope, you don't get to talk about the family that way unless you're part of the family. So I do think that the industry, that's why I say it's an industry, is that there is that built-in protectiveness from all the creators, and you rarely see people step outside the box. But inside that industry, there are all these different, let's be honest, there are communities now built within the comic book industry, which really bother me, that deliberately go out of their way to hurt other people. They go out of their way to try to start controversy, even when there isn't, to try to let's just be honest, they try to be hooligans. I don't know any nicer way to put it, but they just go around to cause problem for other creators. And I think that's a dangerous group that can't live in any other group. Not saying the individuals don't go to other groups. I'm saying as a group, when they're that loud voice, they can't be anywhere with each other. And it's kind of sad. And and Chuck knows about this, like last year, I took on people for doing the wrong things. And you see that if it was a community, everyone would want the bad people out. But when it's an industry, everyone worries about the business end first. And that's what we saw last year. Go ahead, Meredith.
Well, I completely agree that it is an industry, it is a business, but I love how you mentioned family, and instead of saying community, perhaps it is a comic book family, because we're all kind of dysfunctional, you know what I mean? So you're gonna have your divorces, you're gonna have your fights, you're gonna have your, I disown you, and and then you're going to have the people that you cleave to and really support and stuff like that. So I mean, it almost feels like a dysfunctional family.
Well, think about it. Every Comic-Con is the barbecue or it's the family gathering.
Right.
The family reunion.
I love it.
Well, and it's not necessarily dysfunctional. You just have those, those hillbilly family members you don't really like to talk about, that kind of thing. Oh, we got those folks over there. Yeah, they're.
And it's funny. Yeah. The hillbillies are like them
crazy Aunt Blue.
Those city folk people are just horrible.
Yes,
horrible people. And then we have our family members who live in Canada.
Oh yeah, those are the ones we don't talk about too much. But yeah,
and then
the ones across the pond, you just never know about them.
We never blame.
Actually, I want to go to England. There's so much more. Russ could talk about this. Isn't it easier to be at conventions in England than in America because the audience wants to interact with you more than in America, where you're a salesman suddenly at your table?
Well, there's a mixed response to that. First off, I've never been to an American convention, so I can't speak from experience. I would say that I find at the British conventions, I get a lot more requests for support, which I don't mind. So you give out a lot of advice, or the best advice that you can give to other people looking to get involved. You do have to be a bit of a salesman, because much like with the way the internet has gone and the fact that we all have YouTube channels and that we want to reach out to other people, you can't just sit there and sketch with your head down, because no one will ever come over to you. You have to do some kind of interaction with the audience in order to make any sales. And at the end of the day, that's what we're there for, making sales. As far as communities are concerned, I'm with all of you and with none of you. I've come at it very much from the perspective of a profession and from a business, and part of my part of the deep need in me to do what I do, part of that was to be paid for the work, to have that knowledge that as a professional I would be valued enough doing this work to be paid by a publisher. Once I got over myself and realized that that wasn't necessarily the be all and end all, and that that game is difficult to continue to try and get that, especially with the mainstream market shrinking in the way that it does. Once I got over that, I realized that there are aspects of community all around, and I would say that they're deeper in indie comics than they are in anywhere near mainstream comics. You have communities of fans for mainstream comics. This is just what I've seen. I obviously I could be proved wrong. I see communities of mainstream fans, but I don't see much of a community in mainstream creators, because it seems to be like a bucket of crabs. They're all climbing over each other to get to the top or to get out. Whereas indie creators, I think they know they're competing with each other, but there's a kind of a group kind of, let's all do it, like let's raise the tide and we'll all get better. I don't see the same kind of needle that I see in mainstream, and maybe that's down to money. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why it's an industry, right? It's all about money, and that's where a lot of ego comes in. You see a lot of people, independent creators now, and me and Chuck have had this conversation. Everyone will tell you, oh, you're jealous of me because I made $10,000 on Kickstarter. And I really look at that and I laugh. I'm like, I don't want to be you. I want to be Stan Lee. If I'm given the choice to be anyone, I'm picking Stan Lee. I'm picking, Rob Liefeld. I'm picking, Scott Snyder. Why the fuck would I want to be you? You made $10,000 on Kickstarter? Oh, shit. I could go 10 grand selling pot. If it was just about money, there's ways to make money. I'm in it because I want to create.
I think that's maybe when you say what's an indie comic, because people have pointed to people like Image. They're not. Are they indie?
Yes.
I can't see them as indie. It's like indie music.
Well,
indie music isn't indie music anymore because it's not independent. It's run by a large company.
The reason
all the people around this panel here, we're all indies.
But the indie, the reason Image is still indie, I wouldn't say their main titles are indie. I would agree with you. Walking Dead is no longer indie. No. But the guy that they just picked up, who's the first time they're working with Image, who has no PR staff, and this is his first break, that guy's certainly still indie. You know what I mean? It's a fine line with that.
There's definitely sort of this mid level between, people doing it all for themselves and then going to Image. I mean, personally, I don't know that I'd want to go to Image because of their business model. I don't know that it would suit me, but that's a matter of opinion.
Okay.
And we're joined now by Joe D. McPhee. If you want to take a minute to introduce yourself, go ahead.
I am Joe D. McPhee, president of Exigency Studios, creator of Amazonia, AWF, and Primetime Saturday Night. And your conversation got me interested. I also have something to say, but I want the conversation to flow until you get to the point where I could speak my mind.
Fair enough. All right, Meredith, are we at the pump? Because I can't. I have a little puppy who wants my attention, so I didn't know if you swung your pen because I saw the time. You're getting good with the time breaks.
I'm on mute. Okay, we'll be right back after this.
This is the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Also catch us on the HWWS Web TV YouTube channel. Subscribe today and become part of the legend.
This mean Christian's here? Is this like wrestling where that's his intro music? Is he going to be here? Because I said last week we're playing his ads and he never shows up. No?
Oh man, Christian Basil. And he's got a new YouTube channel as well. So if you want to head over there and hit the subscribe button, share it out with your friends, that'd be great. And also Comic Book Advocates, Geek Speak, Geek Insider. I think we've all got YouTube channels.
Mm-hmm. So
I just really quickly make sure that you guys, whoever's in here, put it in the private chat so that we can add it to the show descriptions so people can follow you if they're watching the show. Back to you, Rob.
Okay. So what Russ just said is powerful, though, because what is even the idea of indie? Last year, I famously stopped spelling it with the extra I because I thought the extra I just meant it was about themselves and very self-centered people were doing it. So I started calling it indie, and I made it an acronym where every letter had a meaning. So I even kind of stepped away from it because I came up with the idea of the like Russ was saying, these independent creators, they were indie, and we were going to do this together. And then I slowly found out that the people in charge were toxic. It slowly came out that the people preaching the way they were preaching was to keep people down in a way. It was deliberately formulated to close doors and to keep people buying their products. And it broke my heart. And that is one of the things that made me realize, hey, kid, this isn't a playground. This is an industry. And if you let it, it'll break your heart. And so Russ is right. You have to be in here and understand this is not about friendship. This is about a business model. That's why I do say, Chuck, that there are communities within there. There are communities of people I'm with that's friendship. That's family. That's real family. Like people I would like, if they needed me and I could be there, I'd get in my car and I'd be there. Go ahead, Russ.
I would add to that even though I came at it from an industry perspective, I worked in like some of the mainstream areas. I've seen the kindest, most generous, decent people in the indies. They've just I've seen I've been stunned, and this is why I was saying, like, some of what I agreed with it all and I disagreed with it all, is that I've seen just that an amount of community in it.
Yes.
It's those aspects of community that really matter. Is like people sharing and being free with it, generous with their time and generous. And that's something I've seen across the board.
Go ahead, Chuck. You look like you want to say something.
Yeah, no, I definitely do. So, there's a guy I don't, and I apologize for not knowing his name right now, but there is I believe he's a lawyer, but there was a man who he had literally the most extensive Spider-Man collection of all time. It's worth millions of dollars. And all the way from Amazing Fantasy 15 all the way up, he's got all this stuff. He has things like signed yearbooks from Ditko and from Stan Lee and from all this kind of stuff. He has everything in this huge thing. And recently he got this terrible he has cancer, and it's expensive as hell, and it's ruining him. And so he's having to sell this collection. And this story is going like wildfire across the comic cosmos. And a lot of us are sharing that and talking about it. And if you don't know about it, well, you do now. The community just shared it with you. Congratulations. There you go. And it's out there. It's a huge deal. These are the kinds of things that connect us. These are the kinds of things that make us a community as a whole. And so, yes, there will be smaller pockets. But, a lot of time those pockets are created because when those divisions happen, we turn and we go, well, I don't want to be a part of that. I'm going to go over here. And I'm not trying to throw sand in your face necessarily, Rob, but when things happen, like you go, well, these guys have been assholes. I don't want to be indie. I'm going to turn it into EE instead of IE. I'm going to take the I out of it. That's a part of that division. You helped create some of that division. Dude, you've been amazing for the community. I'm not necessarily attacking you, but I am saying that it's that kind of stuff that does divide us. And we're allowing that to happen to ourselves. So by allowing ourselves to see it as a community, it means that even when we see those divisions, we can try to find ways to break them rather than cement those walls.
And I get that, but when a community allows people to take advantage of women, it's no longer a community. I'm sorry. That's just my honest opinion. I'm happy to add an extra E if it means that we'll actually take serious the people who abuse women. By the way, just real quick, I wanted to shoot out his name so people know his name. His name was, and it's Levine something. Where is it?
Steve Levine.
Steve Levine, thank you. Yeah, Steve Levine. This is something that's been going on for, I think, a week or two now, actually. There's supposed to be a GoFundMe they were talking about doing, too, for it. But it's only in certain pockets, in certain areas. But I was happy to see that Hollywood Reporter had picked it up. That's how I knew where to find it.
And before we get to Joe, I know that Mike said that he needs to go. Did he step out already?
He looks like he did.
Yeah, okay. So he says that people are checking on him. Mike, thank you for tuning in and sitting in with us. If you try and get back, we would love to get you back to your seat. Joe, you had your hand up before.
Mm-hmm. I just have a very dissenting view as far as what was being discussed, because I'm trying to find the perfect words for this, but to me, there's a blurring line between profession and community. Because when I look at the overall picture as far as comic books as a community, a lot of the stuff that happens is very self-inflicted. And the reason I say it's self-inflicted, because I'm looking at the groups that's being mentioned here, and there's other groups that are not mentioned at all, that has a very negative opinion about the profession as a whole. It's like, I sit up here, I have people of my own who are African American feel that even parts of indie comics keep them out of this profession. I was like, no, it doesn't. And it all comes back down to understanding the industry and the profession itself, and understanding the business end of it. And a lot of people who have no clue of the business end whatsoever and they get to like this cliquishness or this self-inflicted philosophy as far as how things are supposed to go amongst other creators, when the bigger picture is, when you look at Marvel and DC, they're no different than the publishing imprint that you're creating. The only true difference is that they have more money and a bigger head start, and you have to start from square one. And go ahead, Rob.
I get everything you say until said there's no difference. When you have a corporate overlord with billions of dollars, that's a giant distinction you have to agree with. Marvel and DC have always had deep pockets in their history. They've always had a parent company running them. I do think you have to admit the distinction. Beyond that, I agree with you. They are just what they are, but they also have CEOs making decisions for their creative materials. That's why we see the things that happen in those industries. I give credit to AT&T and Disney. They have let Marvel and DC really come out this year and do their own thing. So nothing but love. But I just wanted to point that out. You have to admit that the corporate overlords, even with Image, the fact that they get so much money from AMC and all that, you have to kind of admit. That's like, Muhammad Ali taking on the guy who just started boxing class.
See.
Okay, here's the thing. You said Image gets money from AMC. The creators get money from AMC. Walking Dead is not Image. Walking Dead is Skybound.
They get money, actually. There's something about it where Image is actually getting money, part of the contract. I don't know why exactly, but it came up in a lawsuit a few months ago. But just with that property, I don't understand.
Because Image is the Image is the distributor and whatnot, so they do get a piece of that pie as the publisher.
Yeah, but you're right. The creator gets the money from it, but AMC does give money to Image
because they've actually made that statement that it's the creators that it's creator owned. They reap that.
I think it's because they mention them, because they say from Image Comics they get a cut.
Yeah, they do get a cut.
See, that's new to me, because as far as I've known, Image was, even from Image creators that I've known, that they're basically, you're a publisher and they'll market you.
No, remember we said that weird thing they have going on at Image, where they are creator owned to a certain level, but then they become, because remember, you have people who are running the business.
Right.
Itself has money. So I think that they might have even become a producer on The Walking Dead, which might be, because there was a lawsuit where they wound up getting named in that lawsuit because they were making money off of it. It wasn't the comic aspect, it was the television show. I don't know what happened to it, because from my understanding, the case was sealed. So I don't have the end result.
Well, there's been so many cases following that TV show. So,
yeah, so it does get tricky, and you guys can see how quickly in this industry things get kind of like weird. Go ahead, Mike. I mean, Joe. Sorry.
I was just waiting patiently, because it comes back to the point that you was trying to make. At that point, when you get to corporate level, it's no longer about creating the books, it's about maintaining IP. And to me, that's a different aspect of the industry as a whole. It's like you said, the analogy that you said, Mike Tyson fighting the guy who took day one boxing class. Day one boxing class, it's like the very first thing that he's going to learn is duck. As opposed to, okay, this is how you're going to attack the whole gambit, the whole fight for 15 rounds. He's already built up that stamina, got everything rocking and rolling. But yet at that same point, that boxer day one is inventing its own identity, or his own identity in that ring, which is completely different than maintaining.
I see, Chuck. Go ahead.
Same brand.
Mm-hmm.
So last week, I was really lucky to be able to sit down with Justin Gray, the former writing partner of Jimmy Palmiotti from DC. He's done a ton of stuff. Really great guy. He and I had a really great time together. And it's funny because he discussed, I'm not sure if it was on the show or if it was afterwards. I love those after moments. Those are the best. But we got to chat a little bit, and he discussed, having to work on titles where the only reason you're on it is because they want to keep that IP alive and they don't want to lose it and all that kind of stuff. And so, let's just do a 6-issue run so that we still have the name for another 20 years or whatever. And he said, yeah, that's frustrating. That's part of the business. But he is still a creator who loves what he does, loves what we do, is a part of that community. So even when there is that kind of corporate aspect, you're kind of looking up at the corporate people, and it's like, no, the corporate people, they don't necessarily care as much about the community that is comics, but the people who are still making them very much do, because a lot of those people still go back to indie comics, still do things in Dark Horse, in IDW, in Image, in all that kind of stuff. A lot of people in this industry now, yes, they may make it to Marvel and DC, but they come right back down into the trenches and they still hang out with us. And so that community is still there. You often don't get to see it because, when you work for a mega corporation, your opinions on things aren't going to be heard as much, and you kind of have to watch your tongue a little bit. But then when you sit down and you talk about your own title, you get to discuss those things. And when you sit down at a convention, you might be able to say, all right, well, between you and I, you know what I mean? So that community is still there. Again, it's stretched really, really thin because there's so much, it's such a huge umbrella.
When it comes to corporate entities, a lot of times you're going to have people who are at the top who are making decisions who have never been in the community. Their task is to make sure that the business stays on top, that they stay in the black. They're looking at their spreadsheets. They're looking at making their investors happy and making money. So, when it comes to independent creators, a lot of times they just want to sit down and create. They want to draw, they want to write, they want to, whatever it is that they're doing, that is their skill, and create books. And they don't have any idea the marketing aspect, the overhead. I mean, something as simple, and I say simple in quotes, okay? But launching a Kickstarter, that in itself is a whole thing where you have to put together how much it costs. What is your overhead? How much is it going to be to distribute these books? So you have to think about shipping costs. You have to think about printing costs. Everything from the merchandise to postage. It's like, and a lot of people come out of the gate, they have no idea what they're doing, and then they end up losing money because they're not thinking of it as a business. They're thinking of it, oh, I'm seeing all of these dollars floating around, and Keanu Reeves made, sold 600,000 books, and I can do that,
But isn't that the difference between community and business?
Industry, yeah.
And an industry, and that's not to say that there is no community in the industry. I believe that there is. I think I've sampled it where I wasn't aware of it, and the reason I wasn't aware of it was because when I was getting a page rate and working for a bigger publisher, I had no time. I was hammering away at the pages and getting them done. I didn't have time for a community. I didn't realize it was there. I just wanted to do what I was doing. And then once I got involved, I realized that there were those aspects of community, especially in the creative arena. But obviously there's a fan community as well. And they do cross over. But if you just come at it from a community perspective, you may well miss out on the business aspects. And so you have to appreciate it from both sides. So yes, it's great that there is community aspect there. It's required in indie terms, I believe, in order for us all to feel like we've got something. And yes, I know what you mean about them being broken up, because there are lots of, I've been across different places where one YouTuber won't know that the other tuber is, and they're both making comics and they're both doing well. I was working with Unstoppable Comics and didn't have any clue about any of the other indies that were going on really while I was working with them, because I didn't have time because of the things that I was doing. But when you come at it from a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo perspective, you really have to set it up like a business. You can't think community first and then business. You have to think business first. But at the same time, without those communities involved, you're not going to get the same traction. So it's important that you understand and take advantage and be part of both aspects of that.
And are you done, Russ?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I just don't want to step on you. Just quickly, this is just for everyone watching. The link is in the chat. If you're having trouble with that, please contact me or Meredith. We'll get you the link. Russ, that's great points, by the way. I will say this, and I think that Russ is kind of alluding to this because of what we're missing. Community is choice. Industry is not. You sell a comic book, you're in that industry. You create a comic, you write it, you draw it, you're in the industry, whether you want to be or not. Community is a choice. It's always a choice. And that's why the industry is not a community. I get what Chuck's saying. There's this bigger feel. And it is true, because we run into each other. My uncle, of all people, called me last night and asked about a creator. I called him, like he texted me, and I called him right away. I'm like, why are you asking me about this person? It was Doug TeNapel. And I know everyone in the room, like I saw the looks in everyone's eyes, like, why is he asking you about him? Like, that's such a, there's, like, you'd expect, like, a Scott Snyder or Jim Lee, someone like that. No, Doug TeNapel. And I'm like, how do you even know Doug TeNapel? But it goes to show you that my uncle, who knows I'm in comics, is like, hey, do you know this guy? And, like, I was like, actually, yeah, we've spoken. I was like, well, why are you asking me about it? So to Chuck's point, we all rub elbows. But I think that's part industry, and I think sometimes people have confused that for community. Because industry, there are industry gatherings. So that's just my perspective. I mean, I'm just a guy from Queens. What the fuck do I know?
It seems like it's kind of a bit of a juggling act that you have to, in order for you to receive that marketing, you also have to do that rubbing of shoulders and everything, and being a part of that community. The part, almost like saying being part of that community is an aspect of marketing in a sense.
Yeah, it's funny, and I agree with that. I think there is, both of them are an important part of comics, and both of them are things that that kind of are important in comics. You know, it's funny when you talked about the Doug TeNapel thing. My mother-in-law, very weird. This is going to a weird spot, but it's gonna come right back again. It's not a long story. My mother-in-law is really into salvaging, like kind of like, you know, garbage picking. You go, you pick this stuff up, you turn it into nice furniture, all that kind of stuff. And she's in the community of watching that on YouTube. There's all these different YouTubers who do that kind of stuff. And she said, oh, I love these. There's this one couple. They're big into comics. They love to do. Oh, that's really cool. She goes, well, so anyways. I watched their Instagram, and I was looking through their Instagram, and guess who I saw on there? And I was like, who'd you see, Ma? And she goes, you. I said, what? And she goes, well, I guess, I don't know, there's this thing, it's called 101 Tales. And I was like, yeah, that's a convention I was a part recently online. Yeah, she goes, well, they were showing off the people on 101 Tales, and my favorite YouTubers, who have like tens of thousands of people following them, showed off my beautiful face on their thing because they were showing off 101 Tales. And I was like, that is messed up. We are a part of a community where we don't even know where our reach is. I'm being looked at by salvagers. What the hell is that? How does that have anything to do with what we're doing? But that's a part of both the community and the industry. And I think that, and I like where Russ was going, and I think we've all kind of touched on it a little bit. I believe that both are an important part of what we're doing, and you have to understand that when you go into it. So to say there is no community is actually taking away from what you could be doing, because understanding.
To be clear, because I get quoted on this wrong, I just have to interrupt you, Chuck. I'm not saying there's not a community. I'm saying there's communities. None of them all meet at one point because no one chooses to do it. And that's a collective choice not to be part of one giant one. There's interaction, there's bubbles. But people misquoted me constantly about that last year. I never said there aren't community about comic books. I said there's just not one all-inclusive, everyone's allowed community. And you know that's the point. There's always going to be someone kicked out and not allowed.
Rob, you stepped on Joe here. He had his hand up.
Well, because it was the quoting me on that. And it wasn't Chuck's fault. People, and Chuck knows this. People take my words out of context, so I have to make sure that I just covered my own ass. Sorry, Joe. Go for it.
That's not a problem, because in a way I agree with Chuck, but in another way I truly disagree because of the simple fact that you have to separate networking versus communicating with a community or like-minded people who have a basic fandom. Because when you truly network, there is a goal behind that. When you be a part of a community, you just sharing your common enjoyment for that genre or for that particular subject. There's a night and day difference. Like, for example, if you and I talk about comic books and we get into like the actual techniques of writing and editing, that benefits only us in those areas, and we're trying to improve ourselves as far as our own craft, as opposed to talking to some fan who likes, let's say, Bilal, for example. We're sharing our love for Bilal, and it could be multiple different reasons why we love it. And that, to me, is a major difference in the community aspect. But you can't, you have to I won't say separate, because separate is not the proper word, but you have to make that determination as far as what is the overall level that you're really reaching somebody at. Because when you do true networking, you're actually operating in the business professional aspect of things, as opposed to, as you was pointing out, community, which is building up that love and building up that appreciation for that particular genre or topic or whatever you're talking about.
What the thing about that, though, I understand what you're saying as far as networking and communities, but sometimes when you're involved in these communities and you have those discussions, that actually does lead to networking.
Not necessarily, unless somebody exposed themselves to say, hey, I work in this field. It's nothing more than a general conversation. You don't operate into networking until you know for certain that, hey, I know that this person told me that they do lettering, and you get into a conversation about that particular topic.
But how do you get into that conversation is what I'm getting at.
Somebody's going to have to eventually either state what they know, or you ask the question. But when you ask that question, you already setting that goal to get more information. That's not the same thing as saying, hey, I love Captain America, and somebody coming back to you and say, I love Captain America too, and you get in a conversation with Captain America. That's a completely total separate discussion than what is being described as far as networking is concerned. For Rob to say I'm a comic book creator, and I say I'm a comic book creator, and I say, hey, I create books dealing with pro wrestling, and he say I deal with more stuff dealing with fetish, that opens up the door for possible collaboration and all this other stuff, to have top, other things within the industry to further our own careers to be thrown out there, as opposed to people talking about their general love or like for the overall aspect of comics. And there has to be that not understanding of when you operating between the two. Those two are not mutually exclusive. For you to network does not necessarily mean that you're truly sharing your love for the comics per se. There's some other underlying goal behind exposing that quote unquote love that you're talking about when you're networking, as opposed to being in a community to say, hey, I love Kickstarter books. You get around other people who love Kickstarter books and you talk about the Kickstarter books that you love. That does not go into how do you make, necessarily go into how do you make them, how do you distribute them, how much do you price them. Those conversations don't come up until you get to a person who said, hey, I do this for a living. I got a question about X, Y, and Z. Those conversations are always going to be mutually exclusive from one another. And until you understand that, you can't really say, networking is the same as being a part of a community discussion. It's nowhere near.
I think Russ has something.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting an echo. Is the echo gone? No, it's not.
Joe, try muting your mic.
Is it good? How's that? Right, okay. Joe had some excellent points there. Purely from my own experience, I kind of had a brush with Marvel in '95, and then went away and had a career and paid for my mortgage and stuff for 20 years. I started in 2010, came back into the industry. When I came back to the industry drawing comics, I approached it in the way that I'd been in my previous career. So as a designer, as an art director, in publishing, in retail, in that kind of environment. So I wasn't ready for the kind of aspects of community that I found, because in my previous careers, it was all business. There was no community. It was about business. It was interaction for business sake. And so while I absolutely agree with Joe about the differences between what is a community conversation and what is a networking conversation, the comic book industry does seem to kind of, there's a lot of crossover because so many creators are so passionate about the industry that they're in and the job that they're doing and the creations that they put out. So yeah, I agree, but it's kind of a very grey area for me. And like I say, I've found a lot of those community aspects in work that I've done.
Would it be fair to say that it is a community of communities?
That'll do.
I think that was the part that Rob was saying altogether. Is like, it is a community of communities. It's not just one overlapping one. And I agree with that. It's not one overlapping one. It can't be. Because if it's one overlapping one, only thing that's left is just the profession. It's no different in any other industry. If you're in the medical profession, once you get to that broader level, it's nothing more than medical profession. Not the different communities anymore.
I guess for me the issue kind of comes around that if we just if we say, oh, it's a bunch of different communities, then we're kind of allowing those borders to sort of be up. And I really want to, obviously there's some comic communities and people in the community that I would rather not deal with, and you can come check out my block list if you really want to. But there's I guess I want to refrain from limiting myself as much as possible, and I want to be able to jump from a lot of those different communities, and I'm sure you guys have seen me doing that, and I see you guys do that a lot too. So I guess it's just more that by calling it by saying it's not a single community, then it's allowing people to just sit in their corners. And I love the idea of making people uncomfortable and jumping from communities and trying to tie as many of those communities together.
But the thing that you have to understand is that those separated communities are self-inflicted by whatever group or whatever individual that's a part of the overall profession. Because like I said, it's like people who watch this video, if I started talking about some of the things that I don't really agree with, especially within the Black indie comics community, I don't agree with every last thing that they talk about. Actually, I don't agree with 80% of what they talk about, because being where I am and being the the person that has done the things that they haven't, I have seen things that they have not experienced as of yet. And some have experienced it, but have experienced other aspects of it and got hurt. And there's a separation of, they haven't separated that hurt from what is business. And it gets muddled, but they separated themselves because of that one or two or three things that they experience, as opposed to looking at the bigger picture and expanding their horizons in that aspect.
Sorry, I wasn't watching the screen, so I put my hand up just so everyone knew I was going to say something. I'm working like everyone else does while we do this thing, like Russ is doing. I'll say this, to Chuck's point, I wish Chuck was right. I absolutely wish Chuck was right. I love what Chuck wants, because it's the same thing I want. It's just for me. I don't want the separation. I'm just acknowledging what's there. It is really one of those moments where it's like, I came in, I believed it was this giant community. I really wanted it to be. There's nothing more than I'd like than for it to be this giant community. And then I had my heart broken when I realized there was. And to his point about separation, adding that extra E he's right. It does add a little bit to separation. But if that's an umbrella for protection for female creators, I'm happy to make that separation.
Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to point out that we are at the 1 hour mark. Does anybody have to go?
No, but we should do comments after you do your bump.
We're gonna do comments, and we have left the StreamYard link up. So if there's anybody who's tuning in who wants to join in and has something to say about the conversation, that'd be great. We'll be right back after this.
Have you ever wanted to be part of a writer's room? Come join us on Creativity in Progress every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on Twitch and YouTube, the CIP network, where creativity comes to life.
And introducing, oh, wait, they're not here. Oh, man, it's that wrestling thing, Meredith. You keep getting me amped up that I think they're going to run in the door.
Oh, they should. I'll go yell at them after this show.
So let's get some comments.
Yes. Let's see. We're scrolling up here. So Mike was here earlier, and we hope that he gets back. I know he had to go answer the door. Brad Arney says, I do see a lack of unity among independent publishers. And then this is followed by from the desk of a small press publisher through YouTube. As community, I don't see the same as Chuck. As a collective, we come together only when the overall community is attacked. But looking at the landscape, there's too much self-isolation and cliques. Brad Arney says, I would think that.
Well, hold on.
Yep.
Let Chuck make a comment. Let's acknowledge the comment and actually talk about
it. Well, Joe, that isn't that you?
Comment. That was my comment. That was my comment before I came.
We're in the room now. Let's.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard what Joe has to say, and I have mad fucking respect for Joe, and I feel like he and I get along very well. You know what? I mean, the problem is that none of us is 100% right or wrong. And that's really the issue. And I guess for me, it's more just about if we stop trying to create that community, then the chances of it ever happening are nil. So I guess by continuing to focus on the fact that there could be an overall community, that it's something that can help us and can be important, and that there are a lot of things that we do have in common, it's more likely that we can start to bind together and start to worry less about those divisions. Is it a long shot? Yeah, but at least as long as we continue to have conversations like that, the shot's still there. As soon as we stop talking about comic community and we stop addressing the fact that there might be one, then there isn't one. So I'll keep talking about it.
Yeah. And the only thing that, like I said, I was trying to warn Chuck about is, like, you still got to deal with the people who got hurt. And that's the one major problem. Reason why you have the self-isolation and all these cliques, because once you start dealing with people who have been hurt in this industry, coming together becomes that much tougher, and it just doesn't make any sense at that point. So.
Okay, moving on to the next comment from Brad Arney. I would think that a unification of some sort would better the community as a whole. I've seen some good relationships between publishers, but I've also seen some sniping, for lack of a better term. Any comments to that?
Responses? I mean, it's still an industry, so yeah. You'll see that stuff.
File that under industry. Like, there are people who, I mean, there was someone who literally told me that I stole their idea for what we're doing with Terraform, and I stole their logo. And anyone behind the scenes knew that the idea of what Terraform started out to be wasn't always what we became later. And the things that we became later were more the things that I wanted, and we worked towards some of the things, and we came together as a group. To one person who just go, oh, this is my idea. It's like, no one knows who you are. No one pays attention to you. And to think you came up with this idea is ridiculous. So that's just industry. There's jealousy. I thought of that first. This is mine. All that. It's like Chuck said. It's flag planting. It's literally that this is mine and that's it. And I'm
gonna people.
Yeah. You're still dealing with humans, even in the industry.
Well, it's the same as within, I think it was like 6 months to a year, 3 major titles called Punchline all came out at once. And they're still arguing about who's first. You've got Antarctic Press Punchline, you've got Ted Sakura's Punchline, and you've got, of course, Punchline from DC Comics. Which one came first? You know what I mean? And did they steal it? No, it was just it's an idea that's out there, and all of their takes on that one word are completely different. So it just, ideas are out there, people. They're things that we grab in the ethos and in the aether, in the air, in the things that we watch and enjoy. And so they're in that community. And being a part of it means that you're going to grab pieces of that. You're going to create something. And is your something maybe going to look similar to someone else's? Yeah, but get over your shit. Just do it better.
Well, to that point too, I wrote a story, and I was getting ready to script it out. All right, and it had the word Cheshire in it, based on the name of the house. Because I think kind of England Victorian houses. I'm like, the Cheshire Home for Forsaken Children. I'm like, perfect, right? And then I'm going through Kickstarters, and I see somebody else has Cheshire Home. I was like, shit. And I'm not going to say, well, I wrote this first, because I don't have anything to show for it at this point. It was just a concept. I'm like, okay. And I think we as creators need to be very careful, because there's a lot of stuff that's out there. We talk amongst each other. We do brainstorming sessions and all that stuff. Maybe we have beta readers or alpha readers, whatever the case might be. So those ideas are floating around. And then it's like, okay, do your due diligence so that you're not stepping on other people, and making sure that it's an original idea. I mean, so there are people who will say, oh, you plagiarized that. Oh, you stole that. Or, because, and then all of a sudden you're like, do I have to be careful what I say in these groups? Because you don't know who's going to come back and say, I was in that group and I heard this conversation and blah, blah, blah. And now there's infighting, and I think that can be dangerous as well. So, I mean, I think we all have to do our due diligence when it comes to the creative process. Joe, you have your hand up.
Yeah, to me, and maybe I'm taking the wrong aspect on this. It doesn't matter who comes out first, as long as all three of them are uniquely different. Because the only thing that matters of who has the control over Punchline is when it's trademarked. You can have 5 and 6 different versions of Punchline. As long as each one has a different trademark, you're still good. It doesn't matter until you get into the higher order of the business aspect of things. So, and I learned that the hard way dealing with Amazonia. There's so many different Amazonias out there that I don't even worry about it. I have my little bitty trademark. I have, the unique design for the main characters of that, and that's it. I'm not trying to do what anybody else is trying to do, and I don't even worry about that. As long as you're not blatantly taking somebody else's material, then you should be fine, because wrinkles and different aspects always make your stuff stand out a little bit differently than what's already been established in that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, C and I even went through this a little bit with Reapers, because we're like, okay, well, it alludes to like maybe a biker gang or this or that, and just the name itself is not unique, but what are we doing with it? I think that'll set it apart. It can you even trademark Reapers? No, I mean, trademark and copyright are two totally separate animals, and I think people misunderstand that too.
You could, though.
Yeah.
Well, but I'll give an instance. I'm not stepping on anybody, because I didn't see any hands. I'll give an instance. Years ago, when James Cameron's Avatar came out, the same year came out The Last Airbender. And that really confused a lot of people, because The Last Airbender as a cartoon was called Avatar. Yeah, and as far as I know it, they have both avatars, and sometimes I have to go. Somebody will say, Avatar, and I'll go, okay, I'm thinking Last Airbender. I'm thinking the Nickelodeon cartoon, because that one has a bigger following, as far as I can tell. But then they'll say, no, with the blue people, and then you kind of know what they're talking about. But as far as I'm concerned, when you say Avatar, as far as many people in certain communities and everything is concerned, when you say Avatar, they're going to the Nickelodeon cartoon and that franchise. So it really depends on how you handle it as far as whether or not you're going to get known. Obviously a cartoon that came out years ago, have kids following it, is going to get better known than a movie that hasn't been around for 11 years and they're still trying to make sequels. So, but anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Stab.
When I bought out Only Death Can Save Us, that on the campaign, there were 3 other campaigns at the same time with death, either in the as part of the story or in one case as part of the title. Now, obviously, you can't copyright death because everybody gets a go at that. But you exactly as Joe was saying, and Chuck, you just got to do it better. You've got to bring your vision to whatever you're doing, and as long as you're not actively trying to steal someone's idea, it'll all be cool.
Mm-hmm.
And there are certain things you can't trademark because of speech, because of the language, but you can certainly copyright things, and you just go around it the proper way. And as far as being in rooms and discussions, just don't tell everybody your idea before you make it. That'll help.
Yeah.
Or if you do, make sure you make it fast. So
yeah. Like do it really quick. Yeah.
So here's my sketch. Yeah, I licked it. It's mine. So
it may be shit, but mine came out first.
No licking. Licking doesn't do anything but spread things that we don't want spread. You save a file, you send it to someone, you put it in a messenger, you have a trail of, what is it, chain of evidence at that point. That's what you want to do, a chain of evidence.
It used to be posting it to yourself. In the UK, it was you posted it yourself and signed for the postage, and you had a full date recording of when you had the idea. But now there are so many other ways of proving that you have.
That's how it used to be here. That's how that's kind of your cheap trademark copywriting way you post it, but you don't open the letter. Don't open the letter after you get it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I still have a couple of unopened letters. So
just write seal on it.
That's not 100% legal.
There's an
I know, Joe, but I'm talking like 20 years ago.
Most people don't realize to make it legal, and people just don't get it.
Just to back up what I said there, I am not a legal expert, and that was not legal advice.
Yeah, and I was going to say those letters that I wrote to myself were like 20 years ago. So the fact that I still have them is amazing. Moving on with comments here, we have John Celestri who says, if a creator is printing his or her own books, then they are indie. Let's see, we're scrolling through here. Marv is tuning in. I like to connect and talk with creators, but what I've been witnessing lately is that when I accept a friend request on Facebook, bang, buy my comic. Link to whatever site or whatever. It's no, hey, how are you, or anything like that. It's just like, it's like going on a date or not even going to the date, just saying, hey, you want to sleep with me? So, some people are like that. Rob, no comment from you?
Well, I mean, we're trying to talk about community, and that's kind of, that's a whole different conversation in itself. And I don't want to detract. I think we're having a great conversation. I don't want to take away from it. That's just an off comment for a different show. It's an important comment, but it opens the door to way too much and takes us down. I mean, we're talking about copyright right now. I'm trying to keep us on the trail of, community. So I'm going to let that one swing by. I did hear it. I just not.
Okay. So maybe next week or another time. This is from Brad Arney. Perhaps in order to fight the lack of community, the moniker of independent should be dropped. It doesn't make total sense, but might be an interesting conversation.
Chuck, I think you should take that because there is an importance why I think independent needs to be acknowledged.
Sorry, I was just checking some out. Perhaps in order to fight the lack of community, the moniker of independent should be dropped. The thing about independent is that it's important because that's the industry term. And the thing is that we are independent in that we very much rely on our own selves to get this stuff out there. You know, as much as the community is great, the community is not funding me. The community, you know, I mean, obviously they are in a sense, but as a whole, they are not. We're still having to make the comic on our own. We don't have some kind of finances over our head or some corporation helping us with that. And again, if you try to create another name, then the people who like calling it indie are going to stick with it. You've created a new separation. So I don't love the idea of trying to create a new name. Just understand what indie means. Indie means I did it myself. You know, someone like John Celestri, who was just on here, he has animated some amazing pieces for some big corporations. But dude's still indie. Justin Gray, who I just talked to the other day, worked for DC. He's done huge stuff. Spicy Pulp, indie as hell. So, yeah, we're all indie in a sense. And I think by calling it indie instead of independent definitely makes you feel separated. But indie is a community.
Mm-hmm. Joe, go ahead.
Actually, I agree with Brad's point, because to me, indie and independent is nothing more than a marketing tool. And when you look at it from that aspect, when distributors use that, it never amounts anything good for those who are in that particular market. Because again, when you truly think about independence, especially when you come to retailers and brick and mortar, you have some people that truly support us, and you have other people that's like, no, if you're not in a diamond, if you're not part of that mainstream crowd, we don't want to have anything dealing with you, because they're so acclimated to that aspect. It's like it's mainstream or nothing. So to me, if you get rid of the term mainstream, you get rid of the term independence and just keep it as comics, everybody gets the same foothold, and it's a level playing field at that point. So to Brad's aspect of dropping it, I get that. But as far as completely getting rid of it, it's going to be a hard task, because you're going to need that for marketing purposes, period. Because that's how you build yourself to kind of stand out from those that are corporate led. So,
and I see Rob and then C.
Not to disagree with anyone, but just talking to Brad here. So what everyone said is their opinions. My take on this is this: independence a qualifier. It is the reason that we have to charge more for the books. It is the reason that we're at shows, and it's important to support someone who's at a show, because it's harder for us to get into stores. To get rid of that qualifier, independent, indie, don't care how you spell it, with a Y, with an IE, and EE, it's all personal choice. It's what you want to associate your brand with, that's fine. You need it to qualify yourself, because there are going to be people who pick up your book and notice the lack of a DC logo, the lack of a Marvel logo, the lack of an Image logo. And they're going to be like, well, who publishes your book? Everyone knows to ask for that. Is this a Marvel book? I get asked that even when I have my own logo on it. You need a qualifier. That's just life. We need language. We have to stop being afraid of language. And if you want independent creations to matter more, you got to step up and make better comics. Because I guarantee you, when I call a book an independent comic, I'm raising the stock of what independent comics is. Chuck, I know, is too. These two on the sides of me are working on something that's going to be awesome. Russ Leach has done amazing things. You got Joe down there. We're all raising the standard. I think what Brad is worried about is a lower standard of comics, and we're not anymore. Independent creators last year helped Kickstarter raise $22 million. It wasn't Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves did not make that happen. It was independent creators who made that happen. Same thing on Indiegogo. Russ Leach was part of that last year, making Indiegogo the best year it had with comics. I don't know the number because they didn't release it, but they had mentioned that it was one of their best years with crowdfunding. So that independent thing, it's necessity at this point, because it's what we are. We are independent of anyone else. And understand, when Scott Snyder comes back to do, Chuck made this point, when he comes back and he's an independent creator, he's creating independently of Marvel and DC. So we need those tags. So when Scott Snyder's doing his work, he can say, no, this is my independent, my indie work. This is not attached to DC. So it's a clarifier that we need. No offense, Brad. We just it's up to us as creators to make better books that compete with the idea of Marvel and DC, and I think we do. I can name 100 creators off the top of my head who are bringing it to that level and are making amazing comics.
Mm-hmm. See, you had something to say?
Well, no, but that's the thing. If you talk to a casual comic book person that buys a comic book every once in a while, they don't understand. They don't understand mainstream indie in that sense. They understand Marvel's a big name, DC's a big name. That's what they understand. So it's not getting rid of the moniker. That's the thing. You need to educate people what that moniker means. That's the case. Getting rid of a title is not going to solve the problem. But educating people what that means might actually bring more people in.
See, and I come from the perspective of, like I come in from prose, from writing books and stuff. So when self-publishing first came out, it was a junkyard. And every once in a while you can find a gem. And it was just a reason for people to say, hey, I'm published, and I can wear that banner. But it's like you're going through this sea of crap stories, and you're like, okay, why would a consumer want to go there? Why would they want to spend their money? And I think a lot of times with independent creators, who are self-publishing and things like that, we go through the same thing. There's that whole mindset that you have to break through and say, no, there's quality here. And I hope that we're getting to a point where there's more quality than the junk, for the people who just say, hey, I colored something and I threw on a little text and that's my comic book, hey, and expect that they're going to make a lot of money. It brings the rest of the industry down as far as quality, and people are generally lazy. They don't want to go out there and search for it. So that's where your community comes into play. That's when you have to network and say, hey, this guy's really trying hard. They've got a good story. And now it's by referral in a way, until you can break through that whole indie, it's a junkyard mentality.
Yeah, I remember the Kindle publishing boom. You had this whole Kindle publishing. Everybody was out there publishing books, and people became millionaires. And you go and you pick this book up and you read it, and there's so many not only the grammar errors, just the way the story was told. And people are just, it's got awards and everything. I don't know who's giving these people awards, but it's like, no. And I mean, they were making money off of just typing one day, sitting it out there in a book. It was a huge boom. There was there was nothing to that. But yeah, I remember that boom. It's not there anymore because now that gets weeded out. Now you actually have to bring quality stuff.
Right. Russ.
Yeah, I think there's the thing with indie and with mainstream is your marketplace. So we talk about community, and you're saying they're spreading it out to the community so that we can get these books seen and bought and distributed. But the normies out there, who I'm kind of half normie, I would say, I would think I'm maybe half normie, for the longest time, it's all been about mainstream studios. So the difference is what I agree with the moniker of indie, because I think you want to differentiate yourself from those mainstream books without a doubt, but you also want to cross the Rubicon. You want to get out to bigger markets. You want to get out to more normies. You want people to not just look at comics and say, oh, well, that's Marvel, because that's what most normies do. You want them to look at comics as a medium in the way that they're seen in Japan or in Italy or Belgium or France. And that's really the fight that we're all in. Whether it's a community thing or whether it's a business thing, is trying to make that market more acceptable, more mainstream, if you like, without being those mainstream publishers. And that's the tricky part. And that's why you need community, but also why you really want to stretch beyond the community so that you can get your book in, because that's why we're all here. We're all here to tell stories and get those stories into as many people's minds as possible so we can communicate with them. That's the whole point of storytelling.
And we are getting to the 90-minute mark. How are you guys doing? Good. Awesome. Rob, anything else that we want to touch on?
Did we go through all the comments?
We did.
Because I saw the Deathstroke versus Terminator thing.
Oh, here, let me pull that up. Hold on a second.
Because I thought that was
Deathstroke was the Terminator before the movie. DC had to change the name.
And
Deathstroke's finally coming to his own, but for the most part, when you start Terminator, this is to James Cameron again. You see Terminator, that's what you say, Arnold. So at least the normies do. So that.
Well, now, so just to pivot a little bit, we've got a few things that are coming up as far as the
Hold on.
awards. Yep.
I'm just reading Rodney's comment. I think this one's important.
Okay, I didn't know if you wanted to pull that up because we're getting towards the last half hour.
Well, this one's just this is where we'll end the comments from everyone outside, but this is a good one. There are so many groups in indie comics that won't ever work with each other, but this is just a reflection of a real life. The division in our country is huge, and unfortunately, I don't see that changing anytime soon. The reason I think this is important, I think this is a positive moment to kind of address the fact that it's our choice. If we know it's broken, maybe it's time we stop putting up the divides. When I made the indie thing, I made it as a place of safety. Not a safe space, but something that identified the fact that this had to be something bigger and broader than anything we'd seen before. What Chuck's point, it's trying to create a community that no one runs, no one owns, no one gets to put their name on it. It's not mine. I gave it to the universe. So to your question, Rodney, it's up to us. It's up to each one of us individually to just be kind to our neighbor. When we disagree with someone, give them the space to be themselves. We don't have to go out and make everything such a huge, big deal. We don't have to get wet with our feelings all over everything. We don't have to have public meltdowns. Someone creates something you don't like, let them create it. It's their voice. Someone says something you don't like, don't listen. Turn the channel. You don't appreciate someone's point of view, don't subscribe to it. I mean, let's be a little more kind, but also a lot more, I hate to say the word because it's coming from me, mature.
Robust.
Yeah. You have the kid who would never grow up and still not grown up, still plays with his kid's toys. When I go shopping for Jax's toys, we're shopping together really because we're going to be playing with the toys together. You're having that guy in the room tell you that you all need to treat each other bad. You should shut up and listen at this point. That's all this is. We can do better, beyond better. That term do better is well beyond us now. We have to not just do better. We have to go back to basics. There's a reason humans have made it to this point in history because we have worked together and we need to get back on that track. Chuck's right. I want to see a community. In my lifetime, I would love to see comics become an industry with a community underneath it. We're not there yet, but I hope Chuck wins. I hope he's the one who's right in the room. I hope I'm the one who's wrong in the room. And that's just the truth because I want to see an overall community. I'm just reporting on the news. There is not one right now. Maybe one day there will be.
Anybody else want to comment?
No, that sounded like a good way to end it, to be honest. I don't think there is one answer, and I think we're all striving for whatever we can take out of it. And I think that was a good way to finish it up.
Awesome. And so we pivot to things that are happening really soon. We've got the Independent Creator Awards. We've got the launch of the Terraform the Continuum Kickstarter. What else have we got going on? Rob, I'm going to pass the mic to you.
Well, I mean, Russ Leach just announced today, this was news to me, this summer we will see the sequel. And for those who don't know, and for the American audience, Russ has been gracious enough to give us the first 8 pages to be in the continuum. I'm blown away by this fact. I'm going to be able to bring him to the American audience and hopefully get them to subscribe and buy his bigger volumes and his work. So now I'll be able to get to talk about how a second trade, right? The second one's going to be a trade again?
Yeah, it's a graphic novel. Yeah, they may well be, there are plans afoot for them to be distributed as floppies later on.
Maybe give the name of the book, because no one knows what you're talking about.
Yeah. I was getting to it.
Do I have to treat you like as other creators show the book? There
it is. Oh, like there's not enough light. There you go. Only Death Can Save Us. It's out right now. There you go. Bad light. Oh, thank you very much, Meredith. It's getting dark here. It's out right now. Like I say, there are plans afoot that there will be floppies of it eventually, but the premium way of getting it with all the extra content is in the Indiegogo campaigns. And the second book will go to a campaign in the summer. I'm on another project just before that, so I can't get to it any quicker than that. Although I am on a 7-pager right now for the Indie Vault Revolt book as well. So you can see the first 8 pages in Rob's book, and you can see 7 pages of a brand new backup strip, which will be in the second book as well in color, but it will be in black and white because Revolt is a black and white comic for Randy and those guys. So plenty more of Only Death Can Save Us is incoming. Yeah.
Russ, do you know when the Indie Vault thing is supposed to launch? Do you have a time? Did they give you a timetable?
Shortly, I believe it's very soon. If it's not already up, but it's very soon. Yeah. I think the proper announcement was on Sunday.
Okay. Chuck?
Yeah.
I know you have like a dozen things. Pick your top 4. Pick your top 4, all right? Because we need another hour for everything.
I was going to say the same thing because he just finished up a whole bunch of stuff and he's going. He's like the Energizer Bunny.
I mean, really, right now, a lot of what I'm doing is that stuff that's right in between books. You know what I mean? Like, I'm starting 3 while working on 2 for Belial.
Well, for this year, looking at the year, what is Chuck as a creator, not an editor?
All right, so
creator Chuck, because that's what this year is going to be, right?
Creator Chuck, yeah. Okay, so Creator Chuck, coming in spring, you're going to see Essence House Season 3, which will then turn into 3, 4, and the second book. You're going to see, I believe you're going to see Belial 3 by the end of the year, no problem. For those few of you who might know my first book, I'm really pushing to have Welcome to the Void, the next Welcome to the Void issue, come out this year. It's been really difficult with that title, but I'm hoping to have it out there and pushed. So I would say, personally, those are 3. I do have something that's looking like it's going to come out through a major publisher in the next couple of months, but I can't talk about it just in case it falls through. But yeah, I do have some things coming out, and I'm really excited to see where all that comes. And of course, we've got Cat Dad and Supermom, which is in stores, which is coming into stores very soon. And there might be another issue coming, kiddos. Just saying.
Okay, Joe, how about you?
As far as creating stuff, I'm currently working on Amazonia number 7. I'm in the inking stages of that right now. I'm almost finished with this one shot, or as I call them, issue 0s for this IP that I've been working on here, which is going to be kind of like a anthology of multiple different stories told in chunks here. That's more to come. I'm probably going to share that to some beta readers shortly. I've still got the script, Primetime Saturday Night number 4, which is going to be the start of a new story arc of the golden era of that particular wrestling federation as of right now, or at least that storyline here. So I'm looking forward to that. That's what's in the immediate. There's also an article that's going to be released on COMiX Unlimited that I wrote here within the next couple of months. And I've already been tapped on the shoulder for a second article later on this year.
Very cool. C, what is 21 looking like for you?
Of course, we have the Terraform Continuum coming. So I have a 6-page art in that with Meredith Lochran. In case you don't know her, she's over there. Then also I have the Rejects coming out from Silverline Comics. So I did the pencils with that. Roland Mann wrote, and Tommy Florimonti is inking as we speak. And who knows? There's a whole bunch of other stuff in the works. So excited to see that.
Yeah, 21 is going to be really busy for me. I am waiting for the funds from the Kickstarter so that I can get some more art done for The Dying, which currently has 8 pages that I'm lettering. So I'm learning the process of lettering. I've done a little bit of flatting and then just writing out scripts. I've got Between the Dying, I've got Snow Globe, I've got Karma, I've got a couple of other things that are in the pipeline that I'll be writing and scripting out. So I've got a foot in prose and a foot in comic books, and plus Terraform Comics and Geek Insider, pursuing those things as far as podcasts and interviewing really cool people. Plus Nita and I are going to be launching a show. It's kind of a show. It's like, I compare it to Seinfeld. It's like a show about nothing, but everything. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And
Nita who?
Nita Lanning. Yes, a little connection with C there. So kind of like the trifecta here. That's what it feels like. But so it's going to be a very busy 21. I'm putting my head down. I've got laser focus, and I'm letting a lot of stuff that were kind of on the fringe, that it was kind of keeping me busy. That felt like I was on a hamster wheel. You know, you're moving really fast. You're doing all of these things, but you're going nowhere. So trying to focus and build up on the things that I really want to create and put out into the world. And that is 21 for me. Rob, how about you?
First, I want Chuck to acknowledge the show he's doing. He didn't even mention it.
I know I didn't. It's so, and as soon as she started telling me shows, it's so funny. I tell people all the time, I don't see myself necessarily as a personality, because that was never my goal. I'm a creator, and that's really what I care the most about. But you're right. I have a show. It's called Chuck's Shop Talk. We're going to be a part of the Independent Creator Awards that are coming up soon. And basically what I do is I've seen an awful lot of shows where they like to talk about Kickstarters. They like to, show off creators, all that kind of stuff. I wanted something that really helped us all to learn more and to figure out the processes that people are doing. Everyone does it differently. And so if we can learn about how to do that kind of stuff, it's a big deal. So last week on the show, I had Justin Gray, which is huge. This coming week, I have professional stuntman and stunt coordinator Chris Cordell, who is then going to talk about blocking fight scenes and all that kind of stuff. So just having a blast on that show. If you guys want to go to www.youtube.com/ChucksRawReviews, you can track it down there. And each week, live Tuesdays at 10 Eastern.
And Meredith, can you didn't talk about something very important, your Kickstarter, because you're on the point of fulfillment, but wasn't there a bigger call to action you wanted to start of announce now?
That is I mean, thank you for reminding me, but I did want to pop this up too. This is for Ragin. If you see these little guys, that is me and Nita in monster form, okay? And that is the name of our show. So if you see that, make sure that you follow us. We're going to be doing exclusively on YouTube. And I just love these guys. Not bad for stock images, right? Maybe we'll get somebody to draw that out for us. But let's see. For the Compendium of Dread, it's an anthology of dark fiction, Volume 1. The reason why it's Volume 1 is because there are plans to be Volume 2. And a lot of these stories, my hope is that we're going to get prose writers or even people who've always wanted to write stories to put stories into Volume 2. And if we are so compelled, we would love to see that scripted out into future comic books. So this is a continuation of this whole process of going from writing to scripting to getting art and making sure that happens. And who knows, that it could be in the continuum. It could be those are your stories. But that whole process, it's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of hard work. So anybody who is interested in maybe having a story, we're going to be announcing the theme very soon, but it is going to stay in the realm of dark fiction. And I don't know how much I can say about the other things that are coming through Terraform, Rob, because it kind of has a tie-in, I'm hoping.
Yeah, we'll get there. First things first is the continuum. We got to start somewhere, and that's where we'll be starting. And I did promise, I'm a man of my word. I said today we were going to make a big, big announcement. Not only did we have Russ Leach, which was a huge announcement that we were going to have on this book, But we wanted to really bring together as many great creators with this library that we're creating. And we're happy to announce that entering in the Continuum for this first issue, which is titled Enter the Continuum. Every book is part of the Continuum series, but each one will get its own designate. Yeah, we were not really aiming for issue numbers. We will have them just for chronological order. And I'm sure Luke is going to want it on a cover somewhere, but I'm more a fan of chapter naming things. So with that in mind, we're happy to, thrilled to announce Austin Janowanski, who has literally an IMBD profile, has worked throughout the industry, is entering the Continuum with Dawn of the Dead. And I'm so excited to be announcing this. Austin's a friend of mine. He's a great guy. I wanted to work with him for a very long time. I'm getting that opportunity via this. We're giving you the first 6 pages of this book that will be spun out later this year as a release from Terraform Comics. We're giving you a preview early on this year for a later release date. Austin, I can't talk enough about he's been around. He's an actor. This was something that they even filmed parts of for a pilot episode that would happen at MegaCon of all places. So there's so much we're going to be able to really talk about. But for now, this is just a taste. This is just a taste. Just like with Russ's book, we're giving you tastes. And that's the point of the Continuum, to make a library where everyone's welcome. You want to drop your first 8 pages? It's cool with us because we get to put it in something. And now for Russ, we get to now bring his book to America when the cons come back. And we're so thrilled to do that. I can open up that book and say, look what Russ does. Where can you get his book? Well, look at the website right here. You can go get the entire series now. Boom. That's the point. I'm so excited about this. This is something we've all talked about. Every creator I know, you talk about community. How about we all get together and just make comics? Let's just do something fun. That's what the Continuum is going to be. It's fun. All the creators get compensated with books for their part. And it's just made simple. They can reorder. A new creator could order 10 books. When we're in volume 10, they can order all 10 and have them at their table. It's a great way to support the community. Chuck, not listening. Damn it. Chuck didn't hear that one.
I heard it. I was also talking to my kid, but I definitely heard it.
Yeah, so we're trying to support the community because I do believe in the vision that Chuck does. I just don't see it yet. So we do want to help the new creators because that's what it's about. It's about helping each other. And the Continuums, the thing that separates it from the most is it's the quality control. We are looking for the quality. And it doesn't mean the art has to be here. It doesn't mean that the writing has to be here. It's just we're looking at this as a quality gift. Go ahead, Mary.
I also love the idea that you're going to have more established people who are in the industry matched up with people who are probably brand new. You know, so if they're coming in and to have your book title, your IP next to somebody else like Russ Leach, like Austin Janowski, like Rob Anderson, you know, people who've been in the industry for years, that is exciting for new creators to go, oh, wow, I've got a chance here. And to be side by side with that is such an amazing opportunity that I really hope that more people who really take the industry seriously will take a look at us.
And tomorrow you guys are going to get a cover reveal. It's our mock cover. We'll do that live on the show, including announcing the final project, which anyone who's watched You're Not Alone actually knows the title of, but doesn't know the premise fully yet. So tomorrow we're going to, 11 a.m. tomorrow, we're going to talk about all the different stories, their pitch lines, and we're going to let you guys get excited, hit the notification button and be part of it. I'm so thrilled. I'm going to get Chuck in there. We've already talked about it. When he's slow enough, I'm going to get one of his stories in there. He knows the one I want to get. There's one that we have been working towards for a very long time that I'm so excited about. And that is like a life goal of mine right now to get that story done.
Bucket list.
And hopefully that actually starts a series he actually talked about, which I thought would be a really cool series. With that one crossover, it'll continue. So I can't tease it. There's so much more that we're working on behind the scenes that you guys don't even know about yet, and that's how comics are. People have been asking me, will there be another story with Barbara? Absolutely. That is on the list. For right now, I wanted to start up the continuum. So that's why I'm only talking about the continuum. But a few other things for me. The Monsters will finish their story this year. The Monsters Part 3 will be coming out. I know Bobby Gregory, who's in the continuum, is because I'm helping them with their behind the scenes. Chuck's the editor on the book, but I'm the advocate for Cat Dad and Supermom because I care about it so much. And I've always been there. So I'm their, for lack of a better term, or their publicist beyond Scout, like in the indie market. So I know that their second book is close to being kickstarted. So that's going to be coming very, very soon. There also will be more continuums. This continuum just starts it. This is the beginning of something. It's where I've committed to doing 100 issues. That is my goal. Until I get to issue number 100, I will not be happy. Think about that long-term commitment. If I got out 12 issues a year, I'd still be doing this for what, 7 years at least? No, I think it's 8 years, something like that. You guys know what I'm talking about. But I'm that committed to this, and I want to get something like this. I don't know. It's all about creating, and I put my head down and I let all the noise go over my head. I know it's been a scary time, but I've been busy creating in the background this whole time. That's what I've been doing. I've been fighting for the creative spirit. So I don't care what you call it. Treat each other good in this place. Give each other the reason. If you want to take the things I say and talk about them, feel free. If you want to screenshot me, I'm looking good right now. Go ahead and play this video. Yeah, baby. But ultimately, just be good to each other in this industry. We don't all have to agree. We got to give room for creation. You don't have to like someone's work, but you certainly can't trash it because it does nothing. Trashing someone else does nothing. And I really hope this year that everyone finds more kindness in their heart. That's really what that's my hope for this year. Comics are in a place we haven't seen them in over a decade. They're on their way up for the first time ever. Everyone was wrong. All the sky is falling people. Comics are done. Marvel and DC are doing better than they have in a very long time. Actually ordering second prints of books for the first time in a long time. And yeah, Keanu Reeves is around. He's making some money, making some waves. I'm sure we'll see more celebrities join us this year. The point is the comics are making moves this year. So if you're a fan, it's going to be a great year. If you're a creator, get creating. Stop talking about politics. Stop talking about anything that isn't your stuff in what you're creating. Unless your book's political, then go crazy. But keep it political in your book, not on your feed. Anyone want to do any other shout outs? We got about 9 minutes. This landed a little earlier because Meredith kind of got us there and I didn't know how much room we'd have. So we got some extra bonus time if anyone wants to bring up a topic. So I can bring up a topic that I thought was funny this week that caused waves. If you guys don't want to do anything, no one's got.
We've got time. Go ahead, Rob.
Go for it.
So this week I had talked about, because for those who know, Comic Book School, which has a free download of 144 pages, issued its second challenge. The challenge is to write an 8-page story, have it produced and have it released, and it's all for free. The book is for free. So because there's not an expectation of profit, everyone wants to work on this book as a community thing. So it is, most of the work is for exposure. And the whole point of this is, and especially me, I went out and I wanted to team up with a new artist, someone who does not have an established name, because I do have an established name. And I could trade with them my name in this free project, which Comic Book School is an educational site. We could all make this book that we made in 2020, and we can do it again in 21, and prove that creators can just work together for our goal. And I wanted to create a story with someone. I put it out, someone shared it, and it became a thing. It became this big, like, oh my God, you can't ask people to work for free. You can't work for exposure. I disagree with both, and I'm opening that up for the room right now about that. But more importantly, what I found funny is I said, it's funny, and this was all sarcasm. You have to understand, I got off a literal thing at the gym doing my cardio, and because someone had said something rude, and I just laughed to myself out loud. And I'm sure you all do this, where you say something out loud, and you're like, ooh, that's clever. So I went to Facebook with my clever thought. My clever thought was, it amazes me that every artist says not to work for exposure, but every artist doing fan art says they're doing it to give exposure to the IP. This apparently caused, not necessarily on my thread, but from what I've heard, waves throughout the, as Chuck would call it, the community. And it was funny to see some of the reactions. And it was all sarcasm. Facebook, I'm looking at you. We need sarcasm font. But it was kind of a funny moment because you're drawing Spider-Man, but telling someone else not to learn to do sequential work. Because a lot of times when you're working with a new artist, they don't understand things, and they do have to learn through learning the process. I've hired artists who had made great splash pages, could not do sequential work to save their life because they didn't understand it yet. These are the same artists who were told never work for free, never work for exposure. And I don't think you should work for free, for the record. If there isn't a way that you're going to get exposure or books out of it, do not accept. Never give anything for free. You have to understand what you're getting. It has to be a trade-off. And that was something people put in my mouth that I never said. You're not getting paid for the work, but exposure is something huge. I do things for exposure all the time. I've even gotten arrested for it. Oh, wait, that's a different story. The point is that sometimes you have to work with other people to learn. It's called an intern in every other industry. And we don't do internships anymore in comics like we used to. So that's how we do it.
I mean, I did. That's how I got my first job. I interned with you, basically.
Yeah, and he actually wound up getting paid for it after the fact.
Yeah, he did.
I think it's okay to ask, as long as you lay down exactly what the situation would be. I don't think it's okay to expect. So, if a writer comes to the table and says, "Look, I have this idea. I'm willing to share the IP, and for us to work together on it," I don't see that as an unreasonable premise to start a business relationship. But people need to know what they're getting into, and a lot of artists start off with different expectations, and maybe this is where Joe was talking about earlier, and Chuck, to a degree, the business aspect. You need to know what kind of hours you're going to be putting in and how long it's going to take you, not just the hours you put in, but literally how long the job would take you. So they're two different things. It takes me maybe a day to draw 2 pages, but I'm not going to get 2 pages done in a day because I've got other things to do. So there's this time aspect to it. Also, it's very important to apply yourself to sequential art. There are many artists out there that are far better than I am, but I'll lay the money down when it comes to telling stories, and you have to hone that aspect of your craft more than anything. And I think there are a lot of young artists that don't, or whether they're young or whether they're just new to the industry, that don't quite get it. That it is all about a storytelling process, and as a sequential artist, you're not just an artist. You are the other half of the storytelling team. Yeah, you're the actor, and you're the the art director and the lead photographer. If you're in a film, that's what you're there for, the lead cinematographer, and you're telling that aspect of the story. And you really need to apply yourself and then think, right, how much time is that going to take me, and whether I'm prepared to enter into an agreement where I don't get paid for that, possibly ever. How, is that going to be of use to me? And as much as I don't like the idea of saying to anyone, yeah, you know what, sometimes exposure is a good thing, I don't think it's about the exposure. I think it's about the practice. I think it's just about getting the craft right. And the only way to do that is to enter into agreements, into, creative relationships or business relationships with people who can provide you with stories, so that you can get on and make yourself the best sequential artist you can be. And then you'll get to a point where you will just automatically be paid, because people will see the quality that you have, and they'll understand that it's not something that you can get for free.
Yeah. And don't diminish street cred. There's a
Yeah.
reason street cred matters, and you get that by doing work. You don't do it by getting an ego and putting up Spider-Man. Look at your Spider-Man. Pay me $1 million.
No,
You know,
exactly.
that'd be like going to the gym and be like, "Oh, you're poked up." Go to the rack, put 1,000 pounds on it, and get crushed to death. Don't get crushed to death with your ego. Earn it every day. Work on it. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, that's the thing. Let me ask you a question. If you're going to have to get yourself out there anyway, wouldn't it be better to get yourself out there with somebody who's also trying to do the same thing? Yeah, I mean, really, because if you're going to, and not only that, that also takes the load off of you as an artist. That now you don't have to write something to make a sequential art for. That's somebody who's put it out there. When that's how I got pulled in. It's like Roland Mann messaged me. He said, "Hey, well, what are you doing?" I said, I'm perfecting my art. Well, have you ever thought about doing comic books? It's like, well, yeah. How about if you perfect your art by doing comic books, and now I'm part of something? And if I had said no, it wouldn't have happened. So,
and Chuck's got a bolt, so we're going to let him tell everyone where to find him.
Sorry, hey, what's going on, folks? Chuck Pino, Pineau. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram under those names. You can find me on Twitter at ChuckyPin. You can find my Chuck's Raw Reviews and my weekly show, Chuck's Shop Talk, on YouTube, Chuck's Raw Reviews. I would love for you to check out any of the great stuff that I've been a part of, including the many editing gigs and all that kind of stuff. You can check me out, Bonfire Press on Facebook. And, of course, just keep your eyes peeled. My name will be out there. I love you guys. Peace out. Thank you so much for having me in the community talk.
See you later, Chuck. As soon as he leaves, we're going to admit it's not a community. Oh, he's still here.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thanks, guys.
Later, dude. All right. So that was perfectly said, though, Lanning. I have to admit, it is. You know, people don't get this. I've lettered for free. I've story edited for free. I have actually written and rewritten people's stuff to help them be successful because it was practice. Practice. Even as a writer, you need to, I see this with writers all the time. They just put something out and they're tone deaf for their characters. Like Russ was saying, you have to understand the craft. Your characters can't all sound the same. And when you're trying to make a character sound like a thug, you're an idiot. No one's supposed to sound like a thug. Either you understand how people speak or you don't.
I see a lot of comments about, oh, don't do anything for free. Don't realize the value of your art. And it's like, realize the value of your art. Exactly. When I came to comic books, comic book production 11 years ago, I'd come from my previous career as art director, as a programmer, as a UI designer. And if I'd have been doing UI design, I'd have expected £250, £300 a day. But I came as a comic book artist who'd never been published. So I can't expect that price per day. So I have to, in some way, get myself practice so that I can be that valuable as a comic book creator. Until you do that, you can't just demand it. Oh, I've decided today I'm going to be a comic book artist, therefore I deserve $200 a page. No, because your pages probably aren't worth that yet. So you have to be realistic about how you approach it. It's not right that people don't get paid for what they do, but at the same time, like you say, there are such things as internships, and you have to kind of appreciate what the value is of the work that you're doing at that moment in time.
Yeah, I mean, we all have to pay our dues, you know. Go ahead, Joe.
Before I start my comment, I do have one question. How many of you guys ever heard of Wonder Funders?
Yeah,
I have.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you have heard of them, you know that when they first started off, they had anthologies. They did 2 volumes of anthologies here. One of the things that most people don't know about my background is that I did a lot of pro bono work for those anthologies. I did editing, I did writing, I actually did lettering, and I did all of that for free. And the thing about it is, it's like when you come out the gate, when you first started out, you overestimate your value. And a lot of times, that's what gets stuck in people's minds. You're not going to come in the door making, $50 a page or $100 a page. You get whatever you can get. And by Wonder Funders being a pro-am anthology, meaning that it brought in people who were just starting out and those who were pros. And by the time that I was a part of it in the very beginning, I just got through releasing Amazonia #2 to the masses. So I was considering myself more in like the mid-range of people. I wasn't like a beginner, but yet at the same, I wasn't a pro. And the people who I work with helped me get better at production because I saw all parts of the process. Granted, I didn't pencil any of the pages. I didn't ink any of the pages. I didn't color. But I did the lettering. I did the editing. I did the writing. And it helped me with the writing because you get to piggyback off of other people because we did it like a page at a time. So it's like this person got like page 1 and then you figure, you get what page 1 and then you put in page 2 and the next person after you get your page 2 and they write the page 3. So you get to really learn how to deal with teams and stuff in that aspect. So having that in your background plays a dividend, gives you dividends in the biggest aspect of things. So doing free work doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It's just that you got to pick and choose what free work you do.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Look at the people who are asking you. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I just had that quick comment, and then I passed it to Joe. Go ahead, see.
Right.
Yeah, and that's look at the people who you get into bed with, too, for that matter. I've had where I've linked with people. I put up character designs and everything. Said, okay, I can't go any further till you get me a script. I haven't seen that person again to this day. That was a couple of years ago. But look at it. If they're going to be as passionate about it as you are passionate about it, you're going to end up lifting each other up in the long run.
And I just want to add to this, and this is something an artist friend said, and I don't really talk about this much on air, and I don't know why, but this was something someone had once told me, because we were doing the fan art debate about 2 years ago, and he turned around and they're like, I want you to understand something. Artists all get together and talk about things because we want to protect each other. I want you to understand something when it comes to page rates, because we just been talking about it in general. And he said to me that all these artists tell you to ask for more. It's really about them helping themselves out, keep themselves employed. Because what's happening is these newer artists are coming in doing everything for less money. It's affecting people going to them to pay them more. If they can make an industry standard, all these artists can get paid all the same, because these same artists often are doing fan art. He's like, you got to understand, fan art makes a lot of money. It's like they can make more money working on fan art than your comic book. They're like, you have to be mindful. It's a competitive field. They don't want the guy from the Philippines charging $60 to do full page color inks and all that, because it diminishes their value for what they can charge other people. So I always remember that comment and understand, like Russ was saying, this is an industry. There's sometimes cutthroat advice given to keep people, like you don't want to pay artists less. So it makes sense. So sometimes if you're a new artist, you, like Russ said, are you worth it? And you have to be honest about that. Yeah. Are you worth what you're charging?
The other thing is being worth it is not just about your talent. It's about being there. It's about not being flaky, being on time, getting the brief right, providing a professional service. And you have to have all of those things. So people can be cheaper than you, but they might not be dependable. And so you have to make that name for yourself. And in order to do that, you have to get practicing, and you have to show people that you're, committed and available.
Yeah, and it's, everyone wants to eat. That's everyone wants to eat. Everyone does that. But in the end of the day, it's about, a little bit about earning your way. You have to be willing to. Writers have to earn their way and earn their respect with other artists. When I talk about working with an artist for free, I never say free. There's a reason I don't say free. So it's not free. It's not paid work, or it's work that you'll get part of. You won't get paid, but you'll get comic books. And that's a way to make money. You can make money from comics, selling it. There's always got to be a transactional change of hands. Even with comic book school, I'm willing to take the time to give you all I know. Not only that, but there are people within the industry running comic book school. Buddy Scalera has worked in both Marvel and DC. So you can work with someone who's had the experience, and you're learning. This is educational. This is like going to comic book school, because that's the name of the site. It really is. The whole process, like Ross was saying, you're learning, and Chuck had even said, and Joe had said, you're learning the ingredients of the industry that comes into making the comic book, and you're exposed to it. So if you're showing up and you're with me through the process, you're gaining something. And by the way, some people thought that I was making comics because no one wanted to work with me. No. The real answer is I get to choose who I work with, and I'm going to pick the ones I think that are best. If I think someone's too qualified for this, I'll tell them, why don't you make your own story for the Comic Book School Challenge and work with a new writer so a new writer can get exposure. Because this is about, like Chuck said, community, helping each other forward, being part of something that's not always just about money, but something bigger, just making comics for people to read. Sometimes that's important too. Sometimes it just should be about making comics. And it's only 8 pages. So ultimately, like Russ said, you can kind of put that in. We have like 10 months to get it done. You can plan that. You can make that so it doesn't become a big drag on yourself. But it's certainly not one of those things where anyone gets to say, you shouldn't do that. No, don't ever tell someone they shouldn't do it. Let them get the offer. Let the person explain what the offer entails, and then they can make that decision. I know a lot of artists out there who've come back later and said, earlier in my work, I should have done things for exposure, and I should have worked with more people because I charged someone something and it hurt my career for a very long time. Because let me tell you, writers, we're like the Golden Girls. We all get together and we talk over cheesecake.
It's you have to be committed as well. I think artists that are on the way in, I feel for them. I was fortunate to have had a career prior to this. I sold up and got a much smaller house, and that meant that I could take all kinds of risks financially because if instead of investing in a mortgage, I invested in myself. And so it's tough. It really is. It's, you don't get a lot. This is not a business where you can expect to get paid a lot of money. You can get paid a lot of money, but you can't expect it. It's not like there are definitive career paths where you can definitely get paid a particular, salary. It's not like you're a doctor, you're going to make, X tens of thousands a year. So you have to be committed. You have to know, and you have to have your eyes open before you come in. And that requires you to commit to the craft as well, because it is a creative industry. So, you just have your eyes open and be committed. And if you're not prepared to, then walk the other way and go do something else.
And that was a huge leap of faith for you, Russ. See, you had something?
No, I was just going to say, don't just take our word for it. Eric Larson actually has posted something before, Eric Larson, Savage Dragon image, about doing that strip for free for somebody and seeing, and like kind of like a tree, what it led to, into this and to that, and then it moved on, and you see it kind of snowball into an art career. So never discount something just because they asked something.
Yeah,
free.
Joe, go ahead.
I just wanted to respond to a comment that was there. Brad, yes, I'm going to try to get issue 7 is done as quickly as possible. As far as the Mike Watson and Hotshot, we don't know. We never know if we will get together to collab at any given time here. I mean, I still haven't talked to the guy as of yet, so hopefully I could get on my show. I know that Brian K. Morris brought my name up in his interview for us to talk. So just letting you know.
And to what Marvi said, I always say that we are like prostitutes. Each one's got their price.
Well, and I disagree.
I can agree to a certain point.
We're more like drug dealers. Sometimes the first one's free.
No. I know you guys are kidding, but I don't like that on shows I'm on. You're professionals. And there should be, you guys do have a skill that is just like a plumber does. I don't ever equate those jokes. I don't like just like a writer. I know it was kidding.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, but it isn't.
Clips are taken out of context. And
I'm not taking it out of context, Rob. But I'm going to say that is a profession. Maybe it's not appropriate for this topic.
Prostitution. No, That's a whole other moral debate, Meredith.
And we do have a Freaky Friday, but we do have prices. And the thing is, for me personally, I've done so much free work.
Stop, Meredith. Tell them you're talking about comics right now. Please.
I'm talking about comics.
Please tell them you're talking.
Coming from the comic book and prose writing perspective here, I've done a lot of free work, to the point where it's like I've gotten into the habit of saying, okay, I'm trying to make a name for myself. I'm trying to build a reputation. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that. These are all inroads and things like that. And then I'm at a point now where I'm like, maybe I should be charging. And I don't even know what I would charge at this point, because I'm like, I've been doing it for free for so long. It's like, do I? I mean, it's turned into a bad habit at this point. And I have to put up basically a shingle and say, no more free work. I'm at that point.
And as we end today, because we are going to go around the room and say goodbye, here's what Lanning was saying. And this was in 2018. I remember he came up and he was pissed because I've been in the industry long enough to tell you that this free work thing only started 6 years ago. And it slowly started and it's come up from nowhere, because for a while it really was that way. You know, the difference was, whether you like it or not, I'm not debating its validity. Fan art was the moment that things changed. When people started getting away with selling fan art, suddenly this started to get said, and there's a big divide between it. And like Russ said, it's a choice. Let every artist make a choice. As a writer, don't try to pressure anyone into something. Don't tell an artist, oh, well, you're nobody. Don't do that. Don't ever talk down to someone to try to work with them. I have heard that, and I'm very disappointed in any writer who does that. You put out something publicly, and the right people will see it and feel like that's for them. That is your job, and that is it.
Well, that's a two-way street, because I had artists tell me that as a writer as well. So, just don't tell anybody that they suck because they don't have a name.
Letter, editor, anything.
General respect. That's what's required.
Yeah, you don't treat someone poorly because you're going to try to bully them into doing so. Let's go around the room and say goodbye. Meredith, you want to run it or me? Because we tripped on each other last week.
Yeah, you go ahead.
All right, we'll start off with Joe.
All right, I am Joe D. McPhee, president of CGC Studios. So you could catch me on Facebook up under Joe D. McPhee or CGC Studios. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel from the Desk of a Small Press Publisher. We just ran an episode last night. I was on with Michael Pinnock, who has Recovery Incorporated currently on Kickstarter, and he's doing very well, getting close to 400 backers. So if you go ahead and take a look at that episode and previous episodes, it would be greatly appreciated. You could buy our books at cgcstudios.com, where you could pick up your latest issue of Amazonia Primetime Saturday Night and AWF.
Russ, you're up.
Hi, I'm Russ Leach. You can find me at Comic Book Black Belt on YouTube. You can also find me at russleach.com and comicbookblackbelt.com. You can find out more about my book, Only Death Can Save Us, at onlydeathcansavus.com. It is in demand currently on Indiegogo, and the stretch goals are still available, so you can still get all those added goodies. You can also find me on the Twitter, on the Fleece Book. You can find me over at the one with the pictures, all kinds of places. Just look up my name, you'll find me.
I'm C. Michael Lanning, and you can find me in pretty much all the same places too, for that matter. Of course, I like taking Facebook friend requests, depending on what kind of friend you are. And you can always catch me on Weekended on Fridays, and the Silverline Wednesday Wham streams, of course, on Wednesday. So look for me over there. And of course,
go ahead, back to C.
No, of course, the upcoming Terraform Continuum and more titles from other places. So.
Awesome. Hey, I'm Meredith Loughran, and you can find me at linktree.com/MEREJ99. I'm going to have all my links there for Geek Insider, for our YouTube channels, for the website, Terraform COMiX. I'm going to be updating that with the notify me on launch button for the Kickstarter, the Continuum. Make sure that you head over there and give that subscribe, share it out with your friends. Geek Insider, myself, all the links are there. Linktree.com/MEREJ99. I recommend you all get it. And no, that wasn't a sponsored. Go ahead, Rob. You're on mute.
Hi there. Let's try this again. No, that was not Meredith talking. I don't do a Meredith impression. I'll work on it, though. I'll get one day. And it'll all be about the link tree, because I now own stock in Linktree. Just because of Meredith, I went out and bought stock because of how much she talks about it, because I know she's going to make it huge. That and my GameStop stock. You can find all of my links at, get this, all right? You ready for this? All right? Chainlinks.site. That's right. It goes right back to my site where I get all the views on my site, and I make millions and millions of dollars for the ads I'm not selling. But seriously, I keep it on my site so you can check out all my links. I'm super excited. 14th next week, we're kicking it off. We get the continuum. Everyone's going to be able to enter the continuum as the library is born next Sunday live on our show. Stay tuned for throughout the week. We have one more announcement tomorrow, plus the cover reveal. And then throughout the week, we're going to be talking about it. Thank you for everyone who joined us, including Chuck today and Michael, who aren't here with us right now. This was an amazing conversation. This was one of my favorite Sunday Comics brunch. I appreciate all of you because no one stepped on each other. Everyone was very respectful. We all had different opinions at times, but we did so in a way that was, I think, a way to actually show different opinions in an adult fashion. Imagine that. Grow up a little bit, everybody. Let's all have these conversations more often. Let's all be able to communicate each other, even when we don't agree. And with that in mind, I'm out of here. Thank you all for tuning in, and your comments were amazing. We appreciate you all. This has been a production of Geek Insider and comicbookadvocates.com, a joint venture. And with that, I'm trying to look for it. Here it is. We're out of here.